Welcome to the Fighting on Film podcast, the podcast all about classic and obscure war movies, from the Normandy landings to the days of chivalry and swords. If it's been captured on film, we're going to try and cover it. I'm Robbie of RM Military History.
I'm Matthew Moss of Historical Firearms and the Armourer's Bench. Hello and welcome back to Fighting on Film. This week we have an incredibly special episode for everyone. Rob and I can't even remember where we came across the existence of this film. It's the first British Falklands War movie, isn't it?
Yeah, like that, without a doubt. And we're recording live together, by the way, for the first time.
Indeed.
So this is a first as well.
Because we have just finished
watching it.
So you've seen Ungentlemanly Act,
yep.
And hopefully you've listened to the podcast we did with the director. You've probably seen Tumbledown, but I guarantee you have not seen 1987's Silent Heroes.
Yeah, and this is going to be a looser format than usual, like recording our first thoughts. But what a fever dream!
Yeah, that was insane. Like there's so little about this film. There's so little footprint of reviews or mentions of it. There's like one mention of it on a blog where it does like a review of two of the director's films.
Yeah,
but then the IMDb for it is
threadbare at best.
Yeah. So we somehow found out about this.
That blog.
Yeah, it must have been that blog. We must have been Googling like British Falklands War movies, and that's come up.
Yeah.
So we were looking for a copy. We were like, where are we going to find this? I mean, this is about 2 years ago.
Yeah, this is when we started the show. Yeah. Like, this has been one of those legacy movies we've been trying to find.
And I found a ex-rental copy, VHS, in Greece.
From Greece.
From Greece. And we pulled the trigger on that bad boy.
Yeah.
And it was great. So it came in the post, opened it up, and I was like, oh, great. Maybe I've got like an old VHS player in the loft, a combi or something, or I can send it off to one of those people that like digitize them.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at it, and I go to put like the bubble wrap in the bin, and I feel that's a bit heavy. That's heavy. So I open up the bubble wrap, and there, the absolute Don, the hero that had sold me this,
the silent hero,
right? That had sold me this had included a rip on a DVD, like. God. The kind that you used to like rip stuff onto from your computer in 2003.
Yeah, like an unbranded blank disc.
Yeah, like a SanDisk DVD-R.
Yeah.
Just so happened that I was coming to see Rob, and we got to sit and enjoy it together. Well, actually, I made sure like the film was on the disc first.
Yeah,
So I put it into my computer doesn't have a disc drive. My mum's older computer does. So I'm like there on my mum's computer, flicking through to see if, it is actually a film. But you have to get past 8 minutes of trailer. Trailer is a very loose.
Yeah. So like this is one of the rare. It's obviously that there was a video boom in the 80s, 90s. It was a dominant platform, and people make their own movies. You get a straight to video. Boom and all that kind of saying, but America seems to have all those kind of those glorious like straight to video movies. We don't really seem to have any.
No,
and this feels like the lost British.
It does.
I don't even want to say B movie. It's like a C movie. Yeah. And there are loads of them. You go look it up. It's any fans of the YouTube channel Red Letter Media. It's those kind of films. And it's bizarre. Like it starts with these Greek trailers that are cut really weird.
Yeah, it's literally like the title credits, and then
like there was a western, there was a horror, there was a drama,
there was like a dance DVD, VHS.
So we should have known the kind of thing we were getting into going in, because the kind of movies that were advertised before were exactly the kind of thing
that follows
that this would have an ad for. Like this movie would have had an ad that bizarre. But the movie's very interesting is that it plays itself quite straight for probably
3/4
an hour.
An hour, 3/4 of an hour.
Yeah.
And we're sat there going, this is actually not bad.
You know, the mixing's a bit off. The dub could be better. The sound design's a bit loud in places. Yeah, it's clearly been edited in like an early, like something like Video Toaster, if you know what that is.
Yeah.
Really early editing software. Like, you know, it's probably gone reel-to-reel editing. Quite difficult.
Probably filmed on VHS.
Filmed on VHS, definitely.
Like that,
yeah, it would have been. You know, and it's got external shots in London. They've got some nice sets. There's decent enough
set pieces.
A SAS raid in it, which is
2.
fine. And there's an extensive use of Falklands War news footage that adds to it.
Yeah. Both UK and Argentine, which I thought was good.
Interesting. Whether it was shot in the Falklands War Argentine footage, we don't know. But it's interesting to have it.
Like clips of the junta.
Yeah.
Clips of like what were clearly Argentine pilots getting ready for a sortie. That sort of stuff.
Pucara flying around.
Yeah.
Like, but then it's clearly like based off of. There's a character who gets badly burned on the Galahad, and he's clearly based off Simon Westall. Simon Weston, sorry. But
Rob, it's fine. The events shown in this film are based on fact, but the characters portrayed are purely fictitious. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, is coincidental. I mean, the first sentence of that is wild in itself. Like, the events shown in this film are based on fact.
Woof. Yeah. So the movie does a weird thing where, and this is different for this week, where we're not going to go through production. We're not going to really go through cast.
I can give you a little bit if you want.
You want a little bit? Yeah, do it if you can.
I literally just grabbed a little bit before we sat down. So this is a film directed by Richard Driscoll. This is his second film, and then he didn't direct again until 2001.
Yeah.
No idea why. I do actually know, because he was in EastEnders.
Oh, right. Okay.
Like in the mid-90s.
Oh, okay.
He was also an X-Wing pilot in Return of the Jedi.
Right.
In like a little tiny clip. He was in 4 episodes of Jenny's War in the mid-80s, which is like I think it's an internment camp.
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen it. And then he comes back to directing in 2001, and he's never really done anything else similar to Silent Heroes. It's mostly horror stuff, and we'll talk about that in a minute. There's a link there.
He embezzled loads of money, didn't he?
Apparently, yeah. Cinematography was covered by Alan Trow. And he also did the cinematography for Chasing the Deer, which is like a post-Culloden Highlands film about I can't remember the exact. It's been on TV again recently,
right?
But it's not a big budget film,
right?
But it is the closest thing. And then he did a film called Kasulat, which was a film set during he directed it in 2017, set during the Kosovan War.
Oh, okay. Wow. Fair enough.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
The most notable person in the film, well, actor-wise, is Bob Flag.
Okay.
And he plays the minister.
Well, that's who he was. Fair enough.
There's a subtext to the film, like a B plot of them talking to a minister to try and get information about the war. And he played Big Brother in 1984, the 1984 version.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Robert Wilford plays John Hardcastle, the wounded SAS member, and Martin Aylott plays James Hammond, the journalist, and could not find anything about either of those actors. There's no real online presence at all. So
yeah,
that basically rounds us out.
To be fair, for what they have to do, like when you can hear them, because sometimes the dub's a bit off. The mix was fantastic,
excellent.
They seem to be doing an okay job, and then they don't. Like, it's really bizarre.
And you know what I think it is? I think it's the script.
Oh, the script is horrible.
The script is,
it doesn't know what it wants to be.
I thought the initial scene with them in the hospital was good. So before we get into this, let me just like try and give a synopsis.
Nutshell it.
Yeah, let me nutshell it.
Elevator.
Jump in if you want, Rob. But basically, it follows a journalist who's investigating the Falklands conflict as it's happening.
It's confusing at best.
And then he's interviewing a wounded SAS member who is badly burned, aka Sam Weston, Allah, I should say. And then it's intercut with, it kind of jumps back chronologically all over the place. The journalist tries to talk to a minister to get information. He's then interviewing Hardcastle for like an exclusive
expose.
Yeah, and like, was the war worth it kind of thing.
But while it's going on, it's just very muddled.
It is, and this is all intercut with some nice set pieces, some pretty cool stuff in there.
Yeah, decent for the level we're at.
And then towards the end of the film, it just goes batshit. We'll come to that. I can't even.
It just goes off on one like half an hour, maybe 20 minutes towards the end. It felt like half hour.
It felt
like a long time.
The final act was long.
So I mean, what's going on is you obviously, as you said, you've got this whole. The journalist is uncovering what's going on, but then you've got this really weird framing of it all, where you get the war regurgitated back at you.
Oh, it's so bizarre.
From the Hardcastle character who's in the hospital bed with his face burnt, and he's like regurgitating the war to you, but really potted.
Yeah,
and the things that he obviously after the fact he would have known because it was all reported quite well at the time.
Exactly. Yeah,
but it's confusing because it's still going on, and he's giving like these really accurate, well-written, researched facts.
He's talking about like ships that are being hit, which he wouldn't have seen.
Yeah,
and things that are happening that he wouldn't have seen.
Yeah,
and then there's certain like things that are muddled. Like they talk about like ships are going towards the South Georgia when he means they're going to the Falklands. And there's all kinds of like weird things that are just like.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously me and Matt have written stuff on the war. We've made documentaries on things that happen, so it stands out to us. I don't necessarily think if you
watching it back in '87, you might
not
unless you had like a particular interest.
You'd seen Task Force South on BBC Two when it came out. I get it, but it's just jarring that he knows all this stuff off the top of his head.
Yeah.
And it's even more jarring that you've got this journalist.
It's the way he says it.
Yeah, it's the way it's returned back. It's like we're reading a Wikipedia entry.
It really does feel like it. It's not an expose. It's just like if he just talked about the SAS stuff,
clearly they not enough.
But they didn't know. That's it. Exactly.
Not enough to talk about.
They didn't know anything about the raid on the airfield and
things like
Pebble Island. Yeah, Pebble Island. Exactly. And ops around Stanley and all that kind of thing. They kind of like hint at stuff, but it's never like
it's not done properly. It's not explored properly. But then and then you've got this journalist who is trying to leak stories about the war to the public.
Yeah.
And then he gets given these photos by some shady other journalist, and they're meant to be like these expo, like these shocking photos of napalm being used and atrocities on both sides. And then he's in his house, he's seen these photos and he's all upset and he's drinking neat gin and he's looking at photos with like captions that are clearly cut out of a magazine or something.
Some classic journalism tropes going on.
And there's like a picture of is it the antrim or is it the antelope? Or
antelope, I think.
Antelope going up, which hadn't happened yet in the movie or in the narrative of
when he was doing the research.
We're talking about. So I'm like, oh my God, come on, like rookie stuff, annoying.
Yeah. The chronology of it is
it's all over the shop. Yeah. It's very scattergun and it's very confusing. I mean, but to be fair, we could swing into the alley tally quite quickly because there is silver linings.
There is
for our co-host Matt. So I'll move over and let Matthew explain the alley for you this week.
It's time for Alley Tally on Fighting on Film.
Sterlings.
A whole heap.
Anyway, before I come on to the Sterlings, let's talk about the intro. So the film begins with like a small preamble and then explaining the SAS and
who apparently were devised in 1950.
Yeah, and how we were going to, HMS Endurance was being recalled.
Don't
know. Anyway, it starts in Belfast, and I'm like, ooh,
1980.
1980, yeah. And this lone, clearly SAS counterterrorism operator kicks the door in. MP5. Loved it. Classic MP5. guns down a terrorist who's holding like a high power or something.
Yeah.
And then there's a dude sat in a chair with what looks like a block of Semtex taped to his face.
Yeah.
Which then blows up and blows his fucking head off.
It's crazy. It's proper video nasty stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. I wasn't expecting it, but
no, we weren't.
And then there's like a short sequence of a hijacked aircraft.
It's like Raider Entebbe stuff.
It is,
really
like
is.
three guys go aboard with MP5s, and there's the way it's filmed is great because it's completely dark.
They're some of the best parts, filmed parts of the movie, and there may be like 30 seconds each at best.
I know. I mean, every time someone gets shot, the film kind of like does a freeze frame.
Yeah, like the impact of the bullets. That was quite well done.
It worked quite well.
We thought it was interesting that even at this point in 1987, the SAS in popular memory is more geared towards what they did in the Falklands and the embassy raid.
Yeah.
Because the
arguably still is.
Very much still is. So we thought it was weird they showed them raiding a plane, and I'm sure they've done that in their history. I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah. But like it was like, well, just be like put an embassy raid.
Just have some lads run up a staircase.
Yeah, it's all you need.
Or like coming through a window. Or something.
Yeah, you don't need to sell them as hard as they do. I kind of appreciate that they do it.
Yeah,
but like it's weird.
The kit they're in is okay.
It's all right.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like the assault vests they're wearing are a little bit long.
Yeah,
weird.
They're probably like gilets from what's the
Army and Navy.
Blacks.
Blacks are Army and Navy.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then we get the really good stuff, which is the SAS team. The Falklands are invaded. The SAS team is sent, and they're infilling for a raid on something around the edge of Stanley. It's described, which isn't it. And we later find out that it's ahead of the main task force.
Yeah.
Which isn't, reality.
No.
It gets a bit confused because they show like Grytviken and South Georgia.
Yeah.
And
they're just using any establishing shots they have from stock footage.
Yeah, it's not like they could get down there and get some B-roll.
That's not on this budget, crikey. Yeah. But they got DPM on 68 DPM.
Yeah.
They've got
cold weather caps
and 58 weapons. But at this time that stuff is more
SAS belt rig as well.
SAS belt rig on one of the guys. Which I think was just 58 pattern pouches.
Yeah, with the yoke off.
Yeah, anything fancy. It's not like the fancy drop pouch or anything. No. But because I think I'm going to cut it some slack, then I'm going to say, well, at the time, this is easily gettable stuff.
I can tell you now from the credits that I took a photograph of, the equipment was supplied by Boone Army and Navy.
Wow.
And the guns were provided by Baptiste.
Always Baptiste.
And
it's always
Baptiste provided 4 beautiful Sterlings. Which the lads were doing some cracking stuff with. Appreciated it.
They're giving it some.
They really were. There's one bit where like a guy like is wounded and someone else picks up his Sterling and he's dual wielding. There's lots of like point shooting. No one deploys a stock. It's all like Stormtrooper.
It's very commando book stuff.
Yeah, it's all Star Wars Stormtrooper school of shooting.
Yes, great. Blast them.
Yeah, and there's some nice high power action. Like the protagonist draws a high power when he like fireman's lifts the wounded guy.
Oh my god!
Which is baller. And I was quite pleased with the Argentine stuff too.
Yeah, that was fine.
Didn't look bad, did it?
No, it's fine. They've got ponchos on, M1 helmets. One of them's running around with a G3 battle rifle.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah,
they've got M16s, but it's different enough.
Yeah,
I
assume they're supposed to be like the Specialty Commandos.
Yeah, something like that.
612. I can't remember the exact number. But they're supposed to be Argentine.
There's just enough going on in the action sequences for you to suspend belief enough. That there's a lot of close quarter combat, guys running around firing into like a window and running off. It's all implied pretty much.
Yeah. So the first bit's like set in. First set piece is in like an open field, and they're dropped off by the helicopter, and then they kind of run down a little scraggy hill.
Yeah.
Take cover, and then they go in and they're planting explosives. Classic SAS raid type style thing. It's obviously like it's the closest they could get to Pebble Island, isn't it?
Yeah. You just reminded me of when they put that explosive down, and it's like a bit of a ZX Spectrum keyboard.
It's got like
on
a bit of QWERTY keyboard.
It's so weird.
And he's like pushing the buttons, like, what are you doing?
Trying to get the tape to load. Come on!
It's going to be a time pencil. Come on. And they get blown, don't they? Their stealthy approach gets blown, and then one guy like smacks an Argentine with a stele in the face, and then lights him up.
It's really brutal. You know, if they'd had a budget, there'd been a blood squib.
Yeah, you know. Lots of blank though.
A lot of blank firing. Yeah, I think a lot of you can tell a lot of the film's budget went on these sequences.
Yeah.
And they got quite a lot of them out of it. There's a sequence where they steal a truck, and they go on like a bit of a rampage with it. We think there was a Bedford like for 10 seconds.
Yeah, Bedford or a Leyland, but
one of them.
It was a Bedford Technical.
Yeah, that was an LDV van.
Oh, was it?
It wasn't that one? Beddy.
Okay.
It was a Beddy in the background.
That's it.
It didn't get blown up, which is quite rare.
That is rare. They obviously didn't have the power for that.
They didn't have the budget. The Bedford was saved. But that's pretty much it for action.
There was a good sequence where they're clearing like a bunker.
That was decently done because there was dark. You couldn't see a lot.
Lots of point shooting. Yeah. Lots of like room clearing and stuff. And they rescue a hostage.
Yeah,
it's complete like made up fanciful stuff.
It's Commando book.
It is.
It really is.
Like I think every Argentine like bullet just completely misses them.
Yeah.
Like there's only one instance where like someone is wounded by an Argentine round.
Yeah, and they're carried back.
Yeah. There's a cool bit where there's an Argentine running away, and the guy like drops his sterling and draws his high power, cocks the hammer back, and then fires. Like
the professionals.
Yeah. It was very
it would, but then that really is the high point of the film because
nice.
Yeah. By that, oh no, I didn't realise that was a good pun.
High point, high power.
High point, high power, yeah. But after that, and even during that sequence, actually, you're mentioning, it's the movie takes a real turn. So we were wondering, what's the angle here? Because it isn't a straight action. It isn't anything like that. It's not like those like written like Terminator, Predator, and Vietnam knockoffs that you get. It's not like that. And we're wondering, what is it going to knock off like Second World War tropes? Is it going to knock off?
Where's it going?
Where is it going? So I think we might suspend favourite scenes and just have a general chat.
Yeah.
But like in the next section, we'll really try and explain this fever dream.
Hello, I'm Al Murray, and you're listening to Fighting on Film, the world's #1 war film podcast.
Yeah, so difficult. So it's somehow anti-war, anti-army, but pro Falklands War, pro like what the servicemen did and wants to respect them.
Yeah.
But then at the same time wants to really be anti everything else. It's so weird. And then you get these dream sequences that are just batshit off the wall.
They're supposed to represent the wounded soldiers' trauma.
Yeah, and his like recovery process of getting back to life. And it's too, the tonal shifts are all over the shop. So you'll have like him being like struggling to drink a glass of water and feeling sorry for him. And then they'll cut to him having a vision of like a field full of skeletons.
Oh yeah.
And a poncho with no face in it. And
that was quite good actually.
It was good. It was well done.
Not that sequence. I just thought the poncho without a face was clever.
Oh yeah. I mean, you could see the guy wearing the balaclava backwards.
I knew what they were going for. It was
And then if that's not weird enough, then they have really like uncalled for just cut in
the most harrowing sex scene.
Oh god, yeah, we didn't even talk about the sex scene yet. Oh my god. So he's thinking about his home life before he went out there. And he was saying how he was in love with this woman, and you can't really hear half of what he's saying.
She gets reintroduced later on.
Yeah.
We actually meet her with her clothes on.
We don't know who she was.
Yeah.
But you see, it's like full frontal almost.
It is, yeah.
And we were just, I mean, obviously that is a hallmark of these kind of straight-to-video movies. They would put a pair of boobs in or something.
Yeah.
You know, a bit of titillation. You know, it's like a trope. But you see quite a bit more than we were expecting. We were like, wow. Not one I'd watch with the family present. Like, good lord.
I wouldn't watch this with anyone.
I wouldn't know.
To be honest, but
let us take the rounds. Let us take the hits for you guys, because this isn't one we don't recommend this one. Because it's incredibly hard to find.
You know what? I tell you what, I do recommend it if you want to see one of the very first British Falklands War movie.
Yeah. It's like anti-ungentlemanly act.
It really is wild.
It really is. I wonder if Stuart Urban's seen it, because that would be very interesting.
I bet he's not. Like 90% of people do not know of this film's existence. 98%.
Because even the cover art that we've found, none of it is like Falklandsy. No. It's like Rambo knockoffs.
Yeah.
And that's not what the movie is.
No.
But then after the sex sequence, would you think that was like the weirdest thing you'd see? You know, you get this. There's two things. You get this really weird, kind of well edited, almost synth wavy type edit of like fast cut footage and pictures of the war flashed up,
like news montage.
Yeah, over some punk song we can't identify.
Yeah, Tribal couldn't,
and we didn't know what it was. It sounded a little bit like the Stranglers, but it's not the Stranglers, because how could they afford the license?
Yeah, no idea.
And that's weird. That's a tonal shift, intermixed with them having gone somewhere. It's clearly a ship in a dry dock somewhere, and they filmed in its engine room.
Oh my god!
Of chaps in DPM and like naval crewmen, running out of it while they're like blowing up pyrotechnics in there.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh my god, this is meant to be like the inside of one of the ships.
It was the Galahad,
and it's implied it's the Galahad, isn't it?
Because he's evacuated.
Somehow he was on the Galahad.
Yeah, that's what he says. Anyway.
And then during that sequence as well, even just mad unhinged stuff that happens. You get like a in-cockpit shot of a guy
oh my god, yeah, of the Argentine pilot, like laughing.
Yeah, like really unhinged, like intercut with the genuine footage of the trying to extract all the guys off.
Yeah, it's quite distasteful.
Really distasteful, really like bit poor. It'll be like, what is the tone of this? The tone is all over.
Recreation.
Yeah.
We kind of
first
knew
and
it was
only
coming,
time it's been done.
Yeah, from the dialogue, we kind of knew it was coming. But then when they actually did it, I was like,
There's only one more time that the Galahad has been shown on a piece of drama, and it was not a monologue type thing with British soldiers talking about how they got in the army, what their expectations of life, things like that, and it's a drama, and it was broadcast on the BBC once, and at the end you find out that they've not been talking in the barracks, they've been talking in the Galahad,
right?
Yeah, and that's the big reveal, and it cuts away. You don't see anything; it's all implied, and that's tasteful. Because you don't have to see
way more tasteful than
this. And this just, it wants to hammer you over the head with isn't more terrible, but then it does things like that. It's just tonally weird. But then you think that's enough. You think you're kind of like Alex in Clockwork Orange with the apparatus on his head, going, "Please, no more, please, I beg of you." And then we thought. It cuts to red after that. You get more dream sequence. And then the only way to explain it is it cuts to the end of Apocalypse Now, but if it was shot for about £10.
Yeah. So it begins with some like feet shuffling in flip-flops.
Yeah.
And it's got like a weird score. And then it's the back of
drums.
The back of a shaven head. Like a white linen shirt, and it's like, oh no, and then he sort of like, and for some reason, like the dude, the wounded soldier is fine. He's sat on the floor.
He's in the room.
He's got his hands tied behind his back, and this guy delivers a weird monologue with loads of like not subtle references to Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, and he's like, soldiers are a chess piece. For the politicians playing their grand game.
He even says the horror at one point.
The horror as well. Holds his hand over fake candles, which was hilarious.
And then proceeds to cut open a pig.
Yeah.
Carcass, which made no sense.
And he puts like blood on his face.
Yeah.
And
then he shows the soldier himself in a mirror and says, "You are death," or something.
The killer must look at themselves in the mirror every day or something. And I was like, wow. And
maybe the SAS soldier had watched Apocalypse Now. And his trauma was just recreating.
I mean, I can understand if this
for him. I don't know.
If this comes out in like 1980, 1981, and the film is still fresh in the memory culturally.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not in 87, but the reference is a bit
weird.
It's very weird. Like, I understand it's him having like this flashback of like recovery.
Yeah.
And that's what it's kind of meant to be. But it's so badly handled that you end up coming out of it and you're like, what was that? And because you're thinking, you know, that I put the Krusty meme on Twitter. It's like, what the hell was that?
And
that's
then
what it
cuts
was.
to like another sequence with the skeletons, and he's there with a Sterling.
Yeah, and they're
then the
rising
skeletons
up.
start rising up, and he shoots them.
And he
then
shoots
there's
them
a
all.
British guy in DPM screaming, and then he shoots him, I think, and then it cuts.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the end of the film.
Well, it's not, because then his girlfriend, who is now clothed, arrives at the hospital because
Thank God she was clothed.
Yeah, has arrived at the hospital because the journalist is given her like let her know that he's in the hospital.
Yeah, fine. He can be. Yeah.
Yeah, and she like there's a not so touching bit where they're like embracing, and it's
just bizarre. Like it was such a fever. I say it again.
Yeah.
But the tonal shift was all over the shop, and then you're like, well, what are you trying to say? Like, if you're trying to say war's bad, like you've done it more successfully earlier on in the film.
Yeah.
You don't need to have these weird. Like, it's almost like art house stuff.
It is a bit, yeah.
It doesn't work.
Disco art house. I mean, the most
Art Attack house.
The single worst thing of it is like the thing that really broke my immersion for the film is that.
You mean it wasn't broken before that?
No. Like the sequences in the Falklands where he was walking through trees, and I was like, "There's no trees. There's like one tree on the whole island."
Exactly. I know. It's. Yeah, to cut a long story short this week, guys, please don't try and find this.
It was uploaded by the company that now owns the rights.
Right.
And I think there is one up there, but it's described as a documentary, I think.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Put a funny filter over it.
I've seen it uploaded, but I can't confirm that is the whole film.
Right. It could be like an edited version.
Yeah, could be, yeah. But I don't know.
It's, yeah.
If you want to go and do some detective work, I think it's been uploaded legally by the film.
Okay.
By the film.
I was worried about I was being coy.
I know you were, but I think it's okay because I think it was uploaded by the people that own the rights.
But this one is a very weird movie.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to these episodes in chronological order, the next film we'll cover is an asylum movie. And if you're a long-time listener of the show, you'll know we love an asylum film. But we're using this to soften the blow of watching this.
Talking about Shot Chaser.
I know, right? So come back next week where we will be looking at the Asylum's Assault on Hill 400.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening, and keep it front-and-film.com for all the back catalogue. And we'll catch you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.